Oh my goodness. I am so excited, and I'm going to try not to talk too much with my hands because my name is Cheryl and I don't have a long enough cord to attach my headphones to my microphone. So if you hear a lot of swooshing on the recording, it's just my life choices. It's fine. So, hi, my name is Cheryl, and I use they, them pronouns, but I'm not super aggressive and weird about it because I understand that we're all humans trying to do our best. But if you want to try them on for size and practice because we don't have a relationship and I won't get mad at you if you make a mistake, yeah, you can use me for that. That's great. So, I want to talk to you today about my friend Gigi Hunt, who how I met her, how we know each other before we dive into our conversation. So you can just admire her gorgeous face. We're doing this whole video podcast thing, and I thought for my whole life that I would never. And part of it was about like my self-image, but most of it was like I didn't know how I could make it good. But technology has come a long way since we had the dial-up fax machine internet. And it looks like we're sitting maybe in the same cafe, maybe not. One of us is facing the window. Hi, it's me. I look like a snowman with makeup on. It's great. And Gigi and I met at a conference called As She Rises. Check the show notes if you see this before October 16th and the tickets are still on sale. You want to come. Anyway, so Gigi and I met at a conference. My wife and I had gotten on a plane and flew to Montreal, Canada. We're from Vancouver Island, Canada, and I had never been to Montreal. I had never, like, I'm a typical Anglo-Canadian, and I was just like, oh yeah, poutine and French people. And then we went, and we walked into this beautiful hotel that was there, and Liv and I had gotten, I think that was the first year I went Goddess or Platinum or Inner Circle or something. And we had gotten seats near the front, but not in the really front row. So it must have been the second tier Platinum. And this beautiful human, Gigi, was sitting beside me. And okay, so she just like evoked childhood memories of someone we called Auntie Virginia growing up. Just beautiful Black empowered women taking up space and being amazing and totally unbothered. And I was like, ooh, who's that? I'm so glad she's sitting next to me. And we kind of had some asides to each other a little bit. But here's the thing. I will never forget meeting her because I was like so autistic, I missed a joke. I was talking about hormones and I was talking about menopause and I was talking about uterus and all these things. And Gigi was like, looks over at me and she's like, I know a guy, and wiggled her eyebrows. And I was like, the fuck? This is a women's conference. You know a guy. And then I got to know her. And like, she's the guy.
Hi, it's me.
So in the last 2 years, Gigi and I have been in the same community. We've collaborated, we've worked together, we've I don't want to say fail forward. We've like flounced forward because we do it with style. We always have a really good intention. And our execution is scrappy, and like we're just here radically embracing this entrepreneurial journey, but we both have a higher calling. And ours lines up because I have this thing in me where I learn all these different things and I put them in the what I call the Rolodex of my brain, and they just hang out there. And then someone will be like, oh, I have this idea and I want to do this thing, but I need this, this, and this, and this. And maybe it's in theater, and maybe it's in coaching, and maybe it's in tech, and maybe it's a book project, and maybe it's painting, and maybe it's cooking, and maybe it's tarot, and maybe it's like whatever it is, all of these contexts. The way that I'm designed, if you're into human design, hit me up. We can nerd out about this. But the way that I'm designed is I have a fully defined intuitive centers in everywhere. And I love to learn things. So when I get a hit of inspiration, when my sacral is activated, when someone puts an invitation for me to respond to, and I know what it is, I'm like, okay, here you go. And so Gigi and I have worked together in that, where sometimes the lines get blurred between, I just hired you to build my funnel. Why are we crying over life advice and doing Kriyas? Like, what is going on? So Gigi, I would love to give you the next 2 or 3 fake minutes, because I will just wait for you to feel complete, to talk about why you said yes to join this secret podcast project, Cosmic Concierge, and what it's what it's been like getting to know each other and growing together, etc.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. From the moment I met you, I felt like you have such a big personality, and that makes me feel safe because I have a big personality. And sometimes, meeting sometimes people you could feel like too much. So when we're all like kind of equally too much, quote
We're
unquote,
the same kind of too much.
it makes you feel like you belong. It makes you feel complete. So I have loved working with you in different aspects, right? We've worked together in a couple different ways. Like you've helped me behind the scenes. You've been in some of my stuff. I've been in some of your stuff. So we've just been growing together, and we're inside of Inner Circle together. So we get to mastermind, and it's just been fulfilling, right? So when you put out this invitation, I was like, of course. First of all, there was no question about it because I know what happens when we collaborate. I know the ideas that happen. Like I didn't come into it with a specific intention, more so to connect and see what happens. It's like the magic of it all, because sometimes when we get so attached to a certain outcome, we limit ourselves to the possibilities. And I believe in just infinite possibilities. So that is why I decided that we were going to do this. Why not? It's amazing. I know that this is going to be the beginning of something cool.
Yeah, and that's how I felt too. I was talking with Gigi just in a little preamble before we hit record that this whole project, I'm not even sure how it's going to be or what it's going to be. I have a vision for this season. And honestly, I wanted to invite people out there who aren't sure who to pick as a coach, as a teacher. They're searching for community and they always feel like they don't quite fit, because you and I are kind of mavericks and anomalies inside of the specific community that we're in. Like inside of the group of 2,500 people, there are very few Black women, there are very few Black men, there are very few people of color that you can perceive it from their photos anyway, because I love a good fly under the radar. I am a queer person who has a very feminine body, and my name is Cheryl. So like I love being a walking contradiction, but it can also be a lot to be like the token minority in a room sometimes. And I think that we share a certain level of like, fuck it, I'm going to be in this room. This room is for me because I'm for me and I want to be in this room. And the other thing is like the community that we're in specifically, we're talking about As She Rises, friends, if you're wondering. I was the first openly queer person in there in the last like 3 to 5 years. And I've watched it grow and expand because I've been so myself all of the time. And whatever sloppy, messy, happy, embodied, disempowered version that I've been over the last 5 years, because we're humans. And I am a Leo, which means whatever feeling I'm feeling, I am all of that feeling. But thank God for my Libra placements, because it allows me to calm the fuck down. But I resonate so much with what you said about like, I'm a lot and I know I'm a lot. And that's something that I love about you is like you own your muchness without making it mean something other than other people are too afraid to embrace theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like, I'm not afraid of being seen, and neither are you. The only part of being seen that makes me nervous, and I'd love for you to expand on this from your own perspective, is if I accidentally harm someone. Because I would never intentionally on purpose be mean when I'm in alignment with who I actually am. Yeah, stressed. Yeah, I didn't eat what I was supposed to in my luteal phase, so now I'm a beehole. But I don't intentionally harm people whenever I am more likely to harm myself and be hard on myself and internalize something than I am to rock the boat. So the only time I have a fear of visibility is when I have something edgy, or I have to speak up, or I can't fully understand what it's going to be like this podcast. And then I have to put it out there. Just wait and see.
Yeah.
That's like the only real time where I'm like, don't look at me.
Yeah, I could totally relate to that. And I've seen myself in that space where like, I love all of me. I know that it's a lot sometimes. And just like you, when I'm uncertain, for instance, my fear about being seen, if there's any, would be, can I accidentally say something that would harm someone, that would have them go in a spiral? Because I interpreted it in a certain way. And just like when I said that I know a person, right? Like I'm not diagnosed with like ADHD or neurospiciness or any of that, but I know that I'm a little out there. For me, I'm like, oh my God, did I say something wrong? Did I say, like, you know what I'm saying?
You
So
see the confused face and you're like, is that confusion or offense? Which shovel am I digging with here?
no. So that's the only fear that there is. And not because like, oh my gosh, I it's more of do no harm,
Yeah.
right? And I won't want my words to be misinterpreted and the intention behind it misconstrued, when I could have maybe I could have paused, taken a breath, and really articulated my thoughts better, type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, like, it is what it is. This is what you get. Let's go.
I was like, God put me in this body with this personality for a reason, and he don't make mistakes. Something that I think might surprise people about me and you also sharing in common, they wouldn't necessarily be surprised from seeing your stories on Instagram, but they might be surprised from seeing mine, in the sense that I don't really show much about the behind the scenes parts of my life. And I haven't for a long time because whatever made up things. This isn't business related. What's the point for your clients? Okay, so we're moving out of that. I believe it. I'm claiming it here. We're moving out of that because people want a real, relatable human being. They want to see who you actually are and what your values actually are and how you live those out. So when Liv and I were coming home, I was joking about my garden, which I sent you some pictures of, but I was like, people would never guess that I am mostly natural. Like I am mostly natural. I don't shave my legs. I don't shave my armpits. I use non-carcinogenic products. Like we spent our morning going to the refillery in the bulk store, and I grow like my own lentils and I dry them and I eat them. And like I have a huge garden outside. I grown my own medicine garden, but I also am pro science. But science isn't like the truth. It's discovering what the truth that we haven't found yet is. And you and I share a very similar background that we're both really friggin' educated people, and we're educated in a multiple arrays of things. So I think people would be surprised that it's like, yes, okay, so I have been vaccinated, and because I was born in the 80s and it was mandatory and I live in Canada. And I also respect people who don't, even though it's questionable, but I respect people who don't, like body autonomy. I totally get that. At the same time, I'm like, yes, I did give my wife thyroid medication so that she wouldn't go batshit crazy. Well, I also changed her entire diet and put her illness into remission, you know? So you and I share that kind of thing. And I love it about you because you're also like me, where you're like, yeah, and I also get a Starbucks sometimes.
Yeah. So I really do believe in balance. And don't get me wrong, I have in the past been caught up with the all or nothing mindset. When it comes to everything, I've seen myself there. Weight loss, cycle syncing, even cycle syncing, you could get real crazy with it, right? Like, let's be real. Everything, right? When it comes, like, I literally devote my life to sharing as much education around non-toxic living.
Mm-hmm.
However, we go out to eat. I was having this conversation with my friend the other day. Like, we go out to eat, right? Like, I would go get, like, I would make the choice that is best for me. Like, there are certain things I just won't get because it doesn't vibe with me, but I will go to Starbucks and I will get a coffee, or I will get whatever it is, because I do believe in balance. And I do believe that it starts in the mind. If you're becoming obsessive to the point where it's like crazy, like, that's toxic. And we're trying to be low tox, right? So I really appreciate that about you, because I believe in science, like you said, and I also believe that our bodies are innately programmed to heal if we support it correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some bodies need more support than others because they didn't get the best start, you know? So one of the things that I love about the work that you do is that everything that you do is something that you lived, that you led yourself through. And a lot of that is what I want to focus on and what I want to feature on in my own work and on this podcast throughout the season and just like into the future, no matter what shape it takes, is you got to have lived experience. There are too many people out there taking a like a 6-month course or a weekend seminar or whatever about mechanics or, you know, copywriting or sewing or Kundalini or Reiki or whatever. They're going in and they're getting micro-credentialed, and then they're not leading themselves through the full understanding and the full embodiment of it, and then teaching from that place of understanding. Whereas you and I both, we went to life school, then we found the various things that we found, and through those paths, we're like, oh, that's what was happening. I was right. I just didn't know. I didn't have the language. I didn't have the framework. And so we're both graduates of the Trifecta Alchemy certification with Gigi Hunt. And I've done a lot of things. Like I used to be a pastor. I used to be a minister in prison for like in men's prisons. I used to be like a musician. I used to work in a kitchen. Like I used to work in a Chinese kitchen. I've been a traveling missionary, you know, like I've been a newspaper writer, you know, like I've done things. The only thing I joke about literally everywhere is that I'm not an accountant. Please don't ask me to do that. I'm terrible at math. And then I married my skill gap. So I'm very terrible at being handy and using power tools, but I married someone who can do it. So like, but I had to be a jack of all trades. I was, you know, I grew up in a narcissistic household and I wasn't taught the life skills you need to build healthy relationships or to solve problems or whatever. But I was, you know, thrown into a situation where I had to learn how to be observant and I had to learn how to anticipate and I had to learn how to manage my own reactions and emotions and stuff. And like you, part of the deconditioning is like finding the all or nothing in it and being like, okay, I am the authority of my own life, even when, and especially when my friends and my loved ones don't necessarily agree. I am the authority in my own life. I can quite literally do whatever I want to do with this one life that I've got, if I'm willing to accept the consequences, preferred or not preferred consequences, right? I'm really friggin' smart. If there is a way for me to figure it out, I will. If I have to hire out, we'll make that happen. And I've seen you do this in your own life too, since I've known you. I've seen you rise to the occasion. I've seen you believe in the possibility and the optimism of it, even and especially when navigating tough stuff. And it's because of the tough stuff that you've brought yourself through. You have that proof. No, I'm okay because they make me okay. I'm okay because my, you know, God, source, angels, my spirits, my ancestors, they've got me. Future self has got me. Current self has got me. So I would love for you to just whatever's coming up in your heart as you're listening to me talk about this, I would love to hear from you how your life has uniquely qualified you for the work that you're doing now.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for allowing this opportunity, because what you're saying is so true. A lot of people, they teach things they have no business teaching, not saying it from a judgmental place, but it's like the quote says, you could only reach people how far you've been, to the depths of which you've been, right? Mm-hmm. If you ever dealt with loss or grief or trauma or pain, I'm not saying that you might not be able to empathize, but it's a totally different depth when you've been through that yourself. Okay. So similar to you, I didn't grow up in the best family household, right? I was severely abused as a kid. Have you ever read or heard of that book called A Child Called It?
Mm-hmm.
That's literally my life, like my childhood. Like, I'm not even like exaggerating. It's quite to the T, right? I've had to see myself through a lot of hard times.
Yeah.
I went to school, I got my bachelor's, right? I studied nursing, I studied the science of things. I was also vaccinated when I was a child. And, I've learned everyone makes their own choices based on their own experiences, their own cadence, etc. I had to see myself through hard times over and over and over again. Like, it's not just one thing that happened, and it's been so many things that when I talk about being able to be consistent, for instance, I don't say it like, oh, I have no worries in the world and you could be consistent. Blah! Like,
Yeah.
like I share this because I've been in places where it was hard to be, and I had my back and I had me, and I had to take myself out of the mud and out of the muck, and the lessons that I've learned, like, you are into human design, so am I as well. And that's my human design, right? Like, I have gone through all of this so I could alchemize it, so that I could see the lesson, walk through the lesson, and then I could simplify it for the next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
And honestly, that's why I've referred to you. And there's a couple of other people. Colleagues isn't quite the right word for it. I refer to you as like a co-conspirator in the work. You and I are both alive at this time in history, Okay, cool. We got this. Friends, if you're listening to this somewhere you bootlegged it off the internet, it is May 2nd, 2026. I am in Canada on the opposite side of the continent as to where my friend Gigi is. Our friendship doesn't make sense. My ancestors ruined her ancestors' lives. Our countries are in like this weird pissing contest right now that makes no sense. And it's really interesting to be on kind of in it, but not a part of it. And Gigi and I are here with other people who like-minded souls, whether they're in the group in the community that we're specifically referencing or not, but they're the healers. They're the wisdom keepers. They're the people who questioned everything after growing up in homes where no one questioned anything. And we're going, no, there is a better way. Yes, I know it's scary to lose your family. Yes, I know it's scary to leave your familiar place. Yes, I know it can be really hard to face that you believed something so strongly and you shared it from a place of all that you knew and believed right then, only to discover 5 years later, 10 years later, that you were woefully misled at best. And you don't have to go back and apologize to every single person you ever misinformed, because you believed it at the time. You were in integrity in that moment. And the only thing we can do is like, I want to be better than I was yesterday. I want to learn to be like, I don't have enough knowledge to actually speak on this. And also be open to the miraculous thing that is channeling and having wisdom dropped in. So I've had this happen with you and I when we're on a call, and with like other friends / clients, because if you're not friends with your clients, you're probably in a patriarchal business model. Just saying, maybe not. Maybe you're very Capricorn with 0 Pisces in you or something. It's fine. But we've done this thing where I record all of the calls and I provide a transcript every time, because we will get in the zone. We will both have our creativity, portals open. We'll be connected, and the collective energy just between us, never mind when it's a room of people doing this, something happens. And I don't remember everything that I say, and you don't remember everything that you say, but I go back and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Wow, that's amazing. And then 2 days later, some garage sale will have antiques, and the quote that Gigi said on the call that came out of thin air from a book she never read is cross-stitched by some granny 2 generations ago, and I buy it for 25 cents. Like, when we talk about alignment and we talk about discernment and being on a different wavelength, that's what I mean. I still go to the grocery store. I still have an internet. I still play Nintendo. I like for my inner child growing up the way I did, I got a Nintendo. Actually, my wife got it for me. And I play the shit out of that. But I don't like that's I still go on retreats. I still get my hands in the dirt. My wife and I helped restore the habitat where we live. You know, I believe in reconciliation. I believe in land back, and I do think it would solve a lot of problems. So like there's like all these kinds of things, and it's so important not to compartmentalize ourselves. There's a difference between showing it all and confusing people and hiding it. And you and I are here, I believe, to be guides on how to walk in that. Be the duality of like, yeah, I am a human alive at a time when we're just at the precipice of technology. They're going to look back at this time and be like, oh, isn't that cute? They thought they were in the age of technology, and they were just in the age of electricity.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like going back to what you said, it's okay. One of my favorite quotes, which I said so many times, I didn't realize that I said so many times until a friend randomly was like, you're right. You always say XYZ. So what I always say is you're allowed to change your mind. Like you can always change your mind. That was something that I myself had to grow through, because for a long time I was scared of saying something because I was scared of changing my mind later, or I was scared of then going back later and changing my mind, because then that would make me fake or flake or not consistent or not like legit, right? But you are allowed to change your mind based on where your path is going and what new information you gather.
In fact, that is intelligence. It is intelligent to get new information, to run it through everything you know and believe, and maybe get some outside stuff, and then make a different decision. That's intelligence. We were raised by people who dug their heels in and doubled down in my way or the highway, and no one's allowed to question. And poor little us, but also not, because we were the medicine given to those families and they chose not to receive it. So what's really wonderful is that our life purpose is still being fulfilled. Your life purpose is still being fulfilled. And because it wasn't given to you, because free will exists in the family that you originated from, you're getting it on a global stage. And you're doing it by following the next best step and the next best step and the next best step while caring for your family as your top priority. And it's a different energy than the mompreneur vibe that was very popular. Thank God it's starting to change direction for the last 3 years. And I love it. I love it because unlike just showing all the fun things that you get to do with your kids, you show. And friends, if you're not following Gigi, please go down into the show notes. I'll have like her various places to interact with her. So if you only like the visuals, I'll show you where to find her. If you prefer text, I'll show you where to find her there. You educate your kids and you show the work you're doing. You're like, I'm building my business slower because I'm focusing on this as my number one priority. And yeah, do you want to brag a little bit about your homeschooling and your kids and give some moms out there a little bit of hope?
Well, I homeschool, but we homeschool our kids because I didn't grow up in the US. So tidbit facts about me, okay? I did not grow up in the US. I was actually born in the Dominican Republic. I was raised on a small little island called Nevis in the West Indies that is a British colony, independent, 40 years, I think now. But the school system was very different. When I graduated high school, I was 16 in the islands. I graduated with some of the most intelligent people that I like. Even to this day, I still talk about how smart the kids were when I went to school. Very intelligent. Lots of them are lawyers, doctors, very successful engineers, etc. But when I came to this country, which by the way, I was an illegal immigrant for such a long time in the United States as well. Like I had to go through, that was a whole bunch of other drama.
Maybe we'll need a follow-up episode.
whole nother bunch of trauma that added to the story. But I noticed the gap in the education system. And even then, I went to college. I went to college, Miami-Dade College, and I was like, oh, all of this stuff I'm learning, I already learned in high school 2 years ago. What's happening? So from that time, I said, if I ever have kids, I'm going to home educate them, right? I kept that promise. I went to school, made sure that I had myself set up. So when I did have kids, I could have the flexibility to do that. It looks different from what I thought it was going to look, but that was the intention behind that. But I'm very passionate about teaching my kids the things that I truly believe are important in life. For instance, academics is so important, but emotional intelligence is even more important.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have to learn to take care of ourselves, learn about nutrition. I wasn't taught that stuff. I wasn't taught how to care for my body, how to care for my mental health. My family growing up, like mental health, like you need Jesus if you have some type of mental health. Like that is
I took a detour there for a minute. I mean, and by a minute, I mean 11 years.
11 years. But, you know, like these are the things that to me are super important. But, you know, let's go back for a second. And it's okay if we jump around a little bit. Let's talk about the evolution, right? Because you were talking about how how we evolve and change. That's how my business has been. I'm a registered nurse by trade. I decided I wanted to coach women online. First and foremost, it didn't even start as I wanted to coach women online. It was more of I had a job in a big pharmaceutical company where I was health coaching others, and I saw the gap. They were not really trying to coach you. They were trying to give you more meds so that you could be the system. And I was like, I don't know, this doesn't make sense. The math ain't mathing. I could do a better job helping you if I didn't have all of these voices and all of this back end people telling me what to tell you, right? So when someone would tell me something that they're doing alternatively, not what we had to recommend, I was like, yeah, you. And I would get in trouble. So I'm like, so I decided, you know what? I had no idea this online coaching world existed, but I knew that there had to be a better way to help people really get healthy and really get better. So I decided, let's see what's out there. How can I help people on my own terms where someone's not telling me? Because I have the education, because I've walked myself through healing. I have an autoimmune that I have been in recession. What do we call it?
Remission. Recession. I mean, same difference. Carry on.
Right? I've lost weight. I've done all these things. So my business started off as helping women with fasting, with intermittent fasting. It wasn't even like necessarily cycle related, but it evolved because I went through the journey and it evolved for me. I was like, whoa, I'm noticing that I feel better on these days, and some days I just can't do this. Like, what's going on? We weren't taught that. I wasn't taught that. I was like, what? My cycles ebb and flow? What's going on? This is some sorcery. What's happening? Right? The more I dug into it, the more I was in it, in the embodiment of it, being in it, not like someone told me, like, oh, this is what we do. Like, I had to figure that out for myself. And it's so funny, Cheryl, because when I first discovered cycle alignment, cycle syncing, I thought I made it up.
I mean, that makes sense, though, given the context of your upbringing and how you were educated in a completely different environment before you came to where you are now. And also, like, in the United States, I don't know, but I know that when people hear about what we learned in Canada, they're still like, oh, wow, you guys learned that in school. But at the same time, most of what I was educated in is bad science and terrible data, because until very recently, women's bio data was not considered in Western medicine. It was all based off of middle-aged, slightly mediocre white cis men. And so like for my wife and I, we ended up getting genetically tested because of the unreliable narrators in our family background. So we ended up getting genetically tested, and I saw all of my data laid bare. I saw that almost every single thing I've ever been told about my genetics and whether or not I can be this kind of healthy or that kind of healthy was wrong. Like I was born like 7-ish weeks early, but I don't know even if I can trust that data, to like as a twin in 1986 to a mom who knows what she was actually smoking and drinking and using or not. She says she wasn't drinking, but she's lied to my face about a lot of things. You know, I know she was smoking because she's honest and upfront about that. But everything we know about neurodevelopment and immune systems and all of that in babies was so interesting. And I didn't even know until I was in my late 20s that I spent time in an incubator for weeks before I came home. I didn't know that the so-called cysts that I had taken out of my face with impacted wisdom teeth when I was 14 were tumors. I had no idea until my mom casually dropped that bomb at the dinner table the last time I saw her, because after she left, Liv and I drove her to the airport at like 5 a.m. And she got out and she went in to go get her plane. And I just like, before we started the car, I just sat there and I was like, Liv, if we ever get married, she's not coming. This is it. This was the last moment in my life that was about her. Joke's on me, because everything's about your mom when you're born with a uterus and you have mama trauma llamas. But that opened this journey of the last, because that was 2019, summer of 2019, and it's the summer of 2026 is coming up. So the 7 years, right? Uranus messed up my life for 7 years. Or did it? It gave me the opportunity to look at, to excavate my shadow, to go down there and to break intergenerational traumas, and to be the first in a lot of ways. Like, I'm the first person that I know of in my family with a bachelor's degree, but because I'm a Leo, I actually got 2 bachelor's degrees. We're going to do it to the max, or we're not going to do it at all, right? But I'm like you, I'm like, I need to know why this works. It's not enough for me to know that it works. I need to know why it works so that I can tell other people, so that they don't have to spend so long looking. So I went to therapy, and I went to like cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavior therapy and talk therapy and, you know, all of these different things. I tried every supplement, just like you. Like, your story and my story are so echoey for so many different reasons. But one of the things that stands out to me the most is there are so many people like us out there who want to know why something works, and they want to know how it works. And that the why and the how is more important to them than the fact that it does. And right now we're faced with so many people being like, this doesn't work and this doesn't work. So are we going to sit there in our poopy pants and be whiny little babies and wait for someone to save us? Or are we going to hitch our wagon to someone else who's already going places and go together and share the load and make the work less big? And that is something that you have, that energy in you. Like, you're not talking at people and giving them a 10-step thing to do, and then you check out and that they come back to you and report back. You're being like, here's how you notice. Here's what you're looking for. If you feel this kind of way, what if you're not broken? And here's why, and here's the science, and here's the data. And so one thing, I'm just being mindful for time, because we could talk forever and ever and ever. When you listen to this episode, if you would like Gigi to just be on every single season, please just comment Team Gigi below, and I'll have a talk with the producer, and maybe we can make that work. For all my autistic friends, that was me being sarcastic and having an idea and delivering it as a joke. But yeah, I would love for you to talk about what you've been moving through in the last 6-ish months, because I only see the outside. I don't get to see the inside part. So it probably goes deeper than that. But the last 6-ish months where like you're showing up differently online. And I know you're showing up differently in your life. And you've had a lot of chaos. That's normal chaos for being a human being, that could have derailed you, and you could have put your business on hold, and you could have pulled back, and you could have XYZ, but instead you've leaned in and decided, nope, I'm here, I'm doing it deep. So if you could share about what that's been like for you for the last 6-ish months, I think that would be a really good note to kind of finish off our time together today.
Yeah. So I'll give you a better yet, right? We just went through this full moon in Scorpio. Ah, and I know I'm like, oh,
Like, yes, video podcast.
anywho. And what's continuously been coming up for me for the last couple of years, to be quite honest, because I'm one of those people, apparently I need to really be shown. I need to really understand the
Can I have a signier sign, please?
So what's been coming up for me a lot has been like old pattern, old woundings. So here's the thing, right? You know this, our body keeps score of things that we intellectually can't even conceptualize. We can't explain it. One minute you're sitting there, all of a sudden you get a rush of emotion and you want to cry, or you're even worse. You're sitting there and all of a sudden you get a rush of anger, and anybody that comes across your path is in the danger zone. And for a very long time, I lived with that, not realizing that it was these old patterns. Because, like you said, we don't want to admit it, but everything always goes back to our mothers. There's a thing called mother hunger, right? And as a child who was raised by a stepmom who abused her and didn't have her actual mom there to guide, protect, nourish, all of that, I have a lot of wounds and trauma that live in my body that, unless I consciously address them, will keep coming up for me, right? So I've been very intentional with allowing these rush of emotions to come up without making them mean something about me in the now. Because here's what I was doing. It would come up and then I'm like, I'm just an angry person. I don't understand. I don't deserve. You know how we keep putting these stories to things that, like, so I've been moving through that, experiencing it, processing it, and not making it mean something about my current situation, because even though my body keeps bringing up these unsafe trigger coding, whatever we want to call it, I'm safe now, right? I have a great life. I have a great husband. I have the 2 children that I've dreamt of my entire life. When I was a kid, when I was young, and I imagined my daughter, she looks just like my daughter that I have.
I love that. Gigi
Oh,
might be psychic. It's fine.
saying 1-800 psychic. You remember that back in the day when
Oh my goodness. Yes.
but moving through that without attaching myself to it, but letting it come up and process, and realizing that that's like the release that I need, giving myself and allowing myself space without drowning in it. So for me personally, this used to come up every luteal phase, right?
Yeah, of course.
5 days before my period, met my husband, we were getting divorced. I was angry, I was irritated, I was about to light the house on fire. It was crazy. I've been learning, oh my gosh, okay, this is a pattern. Let's figure out why this is happening, because I like to do the why, right? This is why I entered into TAC. I went in because I
mean, same. I had a transformative life experience on session, moved something I hadn't been able to move every other fucking way, including medication, including all of the things. And I had a 145-minute session using the E3 protocol, and my entire life changed.
Right? Okay, so you get it. We're on the same page here. So that's what happened. I was like, oh, this is crazy. Also did therapy, medication. I had a drawer full of pharmaceutical once upon a time, in another lifetime. I call these lifetimes, right? Because I've lived like 28 of them in 36 years. I, had to process all this stuff. I learned that I could actually feel my emotions and not be my emotions. And I've been moving through that for the last few months. And like, it's kind of like an awe of myself and an awe of, wow, this human experience is fucking wild. What? And processing it and letting it flow and letting it go. And through this journey and being not abandoning myself when shit gets rough, right? A few
Yeah.
years ago, we had a house fire. Everything, we lost everything. I continued on my merry way. I had a live the next day. I was like, we're going live because guess what? Like, I could be sad and I could be happy at the same time. It's duality. It's something I just learned the last few years, apparently.
You learn it in real time, and you're learning it in real time. And like the spiral of life lessons, where when we graduate from the lesson and then it comes back around. And now that you know that, and now that you know about energetic patterns and you know about ancestral stuff from the point of like what's culturally relevant to you, and also from the human perspective, no matter what culture you are, if you're listening, you have ancestors. And if you trace all of our ancestors all the way back, you will get to this incredible tribe. There's a documentary on it in called Ghost Elephant, but also don't watch that with your little kids or they will be traumatized probably. But there's an anthropologist in there who's talking about if you trace human DNA all the way back, it originates, all of the same data is shared across everyone. But when it comes back, all of these traits are present only in this one people group that still lives in the bush in Africa. And yeah, they also have cell phones and stuff because we're global, whatever, but they still live in cohesion with nature. And those are their ancestors are our ancestors. And the way that they view the world and see the world is very different. My culture, where I'm from in Canada, is still very young, like compared to the rest of the world even. And we were the colonizers, then we were and they're still in charge, but please, dear everyone, shift it. I'm okay. I realize that we'll all cry for 5 years about how hard life is having to rough it, but humans have been doing this for millennia. But one thing that you said that I want to make sure I highlight for people with this is like, you said that now that you're safe, all this stuff is coming up because your body's like, finally. So if you're listening to this and you are a one trip or die from the grocery store, but you gotta pee, but you also need to put the groceries down kind of person, that is where we are at cosmically right now as a people, as the human race. We are like not willing to let go of anything that we're holding on to until we get safe. When you get safe, all of the stuff starts coming up because finally your body's like, oh, I can let go of this. But the only way to let go of it is for it to come out. It's not like we release it and somehow it osmotically transmutes through our skin and is magically gone. There is no accident that I have been, trying to lose weight. I have been trying to be more mobile. I have early onset arthritis, or do I? Trauma in the body. I'm open to both things being true. This is the name they gave the way trauma is presenting in my body right now. And there's no accident. And when I finally released a relationship that was based on a pattern that was tied to my mother, that was like loops and conditioning and narcissism and fawning. And please hear me when I say this, the person I'm talking about is not a narcissist, but the conditioning and their personalities being so similar, my body went into the fawning. So I did that whole relationship that way. And I was so afraid to lose it to the point where I had a 12-day root lock when the friendship ended and I couldn't go to the bathroom, but I knew what was happening in my body. But when I finally released that, I lost 16 inches around my abdomen in 6 months without crash dieting. I eat fast food sometimes. I live really close to a Dairy Queen and it's been warm weather up here, but I also walk my trail every single day for 20 to 30 minutes out in nature. I'm drinking water. I'm going to bed on time. I keep my energy squeaky clean, but this relationship was causing me so much activation and so much stress and activating so many old wounds that I had to release it. And when I did, everything shifted. Right? But I had to be safe to face those patterns. And I, like you, am married to a wonderful human who gets me and actually kind of loves my insanity. Like the way she giggles at things that I was made wrong for and punished for growing up. Like how my sense of humor is yelling at the end of a sentence kind of joke. Like I just walk around the house and I'm like, whoa, like singing. I shout at the cat when I get hit my threshold of enough of with overstimulation and the certain tone. They know too, because they're like, "Ooh, you'll get up and chase me, and it will be really fun." And I'll just be like, "I'm gonna kill you," and like I'm not actually gonna, and I would never. I'm poor because I have cats. Honestly, they're treated the way I never was, kind of thing. But yeah, so like when you feel safe in your body, when you feel safe in your relationship, when you feel safe with yourself. And all of these things are things that do not depend as much on external circumstances as we've been led to believe.
That's
Hard things are going to happen. Suffering is a choice.
Yes, that's a big one.
And I hate that quote, but I love that quote.
Yeah. This is such a big one because sometimes we think that, okay, if we go through this healing journey or something happens, like that's it, we're good, we're golden. But life is a journey. There's always going to be some shit that happens. Life will always life, right? It's how we hold ourselves through it. And I don't know, fortunately, unfortunately, have been given lots of opportunity to practice. So when I share the work that I do and I'm like, oh, this is another way, another perspective, another side of way to look at it. I don't just say it from a textbook or from something I saw online, right? It's from my own lived experience and the work.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and helping me to record the first ever episode of Cosmic Concierge. This has been so nourishing for my heart. I feel like I got to know you better and I learned some things that only my intuition knew, where I'm like, of course, yes, of course. And also, yeah, I'm just so excited for this to hit. And I hope that the rest of your day is super amazing. If you want to connect with Gigi, her Instagram, her Substack, her newsletter, it's all there because I'm not gatekeeping any of these connections. Every single person that I interview on this season of this podcast is someone that I know. It's someone who's touched my life. I've touched their lives. Vice versa. We've seen some things together. We accidentally cried in a closet together. Whatever it is, like these are real human people who are both ordinary and extraordinary, and I just want you to know them. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please rate and share the show. I live in Canada. I cannot monetize my podcast the way other countries can. So when this gets into the hands of more people, then it boosts my engagement and more people get to have conscious conversations like this. Now we're just gonna chin wag or whatever and find the stop recording button.